Welcome to Dodgers Daily. I'm Casey Porter. I'm so glad that you decided to tune in. We have a very, very, very special guest today, pitching coach for the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes. Durin O'Linger joins Dodgers Daily. So, Durin, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, Casey. Thanks for having me.
Okay, I was talking to you just a minute ago. Really cool experience. I didn't actually realize this was you when I started doing some research. I remember the play very well. I remember when you guys at Davidson went up and beat North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And you actually pitched 6 innings that game and got the last out. You got Michael Bush, one of the biggest prospects in the Dodgers organization, to ground out for that last out. You covered first base, kind of caught a high throw. I remember it like it was yesterday, man. I see you smiling, man. That has to be a great memory, right?
Oh, there's no question. Yeah. And what's funny is that I actually didn't think I touched the bag at first. But pitchers turned out I did touch the bag. So in case anybody else is listening out there, I did.
And if you need any evidence of that, you can just look back on SportsCenter because it was all over ESPN and all that. So that was a great play. And one of the cool things I got a kick out of this, you guys were really good that year and one of those mid-major type guys, type teams of Davidson that people like to discredit. And you were real honest with the fact that, hey, we are good and we are going to go to a regional and we are going to beat somebody. And I'll be darned if you didn't back all that up, huh?
It's actually funny. So we got interviewed while we were on the bus coming back from the A-10 tournament. And, all the seniors always sit towards the back of the bus. And I didn't remember saying that. And then I got off the interview and everybody else looks at me and they said, "Do you realize what you just said?" And I was like, "No clue." And they're like, "You just basically said that we're going to go to a regional. We're going to win this." And I was like, "Well, I stand by
it." Well, I'll tell you what, I know you're a very humble person, but I would like to get these numbers out. I believe you threw over 500 pitches between the A-10 tournament, conference tournament, and then the regional there in Chapel Hill and then the super regional. And you got the win there, the 6-inning win in that first game. Then you got the save in the finals. So Davidson beats North Carolina. Of course, we all know Davidson for Steph Curry and basketball and all of that. So, was there a big party there going on where, beating Davidson being in North Carolina?
Yeah, there's no question. So we had a huge alumni gathering, and all of them showed up for the game at UNC. And one of the guys that was in the class above me actually was getting married that same day. And what's funny is all of them had everything set up on their phones during the entire rehearsal. And then they made sure to come out there for the regional final later that weekend. So, it's they had watch parties going on at the college. Davidson is known for Steph Curry and their Elite Eight run that year. Not the most illustrious athletic success, just from the program in general. So it was really cool to be a part of something like that.
I know you were very excited to sign with Boston in 2017. You were very gracious for the opportunity you're given. I know you loved your time with the Red Sox. Talk about that time period in your career.
Yeah, all that just seems kind of like a blur to me at this point.
Yeah.
The stars kind of aligned. I wasn't really a draft prospect. I happened to get hot at the right time. We got hot, and it was kind of a byproduct of us doing so well in that regional and super regional run. I actually got a call when they signed me. It was from Gus Quattlebaum, which he's pretty high up in the professional scouting side for the Boston Red Sox. And he was a Davidson alum, played for the same coach I played for. So it was a pretty cool phone call to get. And just one of those things where it's like a surreal moment. I was ready to go to pharmacy school, ready to go to University of Florida, and ended up turning that down and deferred my enrollment. They were great with everything. And basically packed up and I was in Lowell, Massachusetts the next day as soon as that phone call happened. And, I ended up having pretty good success at that level and went back to spring training and got to experience the full season, got up to Double-A. Definitely some ups, some downs. But I wouldn't trade that experience for the world. Everybody there, the friendships I made with the guys, the experience playing on the minor league side, I think has really helped prepare me for my role I'm in with the Dodgers now on the coaching side. So it was a pretty cool perspective to have.
You mentioned getting prepared for your coaching gig with the Dodgers. You are the pitching coach for Rancho Cucamonga. So how did you get connected with the Dodgers?
So really random and funny story. I was working at one of those independent facilities back in Tampa that was actually run by Mark Newman, who was the executive VP for the Yankees for over 25 years. And he was kind of mentoring me at the time to try to get into the professional side. And I got a random LinkedIn message from Tyler Duncan, who is now, he's part of our performance science team and one of the most intellectual guys I've ever met. And we went back and forth on LinkedIn, and he said, "Hey, like, we're hiring for the development coach job. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then before you know it, I started doing 6-7 phone interviews. I went out to winter meetings in San Diego that year, had in-person meetings with just about everybody on the player development side, including, Reimer, McGrath, Joe Harrington. So it was really cool to get to meet the entire team. I felt instantly connected to everybody as soon as I met them. And then the rest is history. Went in, started on the COVID year, obviously wasn't out in Arizona for very long before everything got shut down, but was very fortunate to have that experience and then transition into this pitching coach role.
You mentioned Tampa, and that's where you grew up. You went to Tampa Prep there for your high school career. So how did you get connected with Davidson?
So Tampa Prep had a guy play baseball and soccer at Davidson about 3 years prior. And my coach at Tampa Prep ended up reaching out on my behalf to Coach Cook and went to one of those camps, and Coach Cook liked what he saw, I guess, enough to give me the opportunity. I wasn't able to stay in the state of Florida. I was really interested in Davidson just because of the academic side, because I knew I wanted to go down a pharmacy role, some kind of biology role. And, I fell in love with the small campus, small town. Tampa's not a huge city as it is, but it was nice to kind of get away and really learn how to be independent and also try to push myself with the academic endeavor. And baseball is just an added incentive there.
Okay, with the Dodgers, really cool. You get to work underneath Shoemaker. First of all, anytime I talk to somebody who's played for Shoe or has gotten to coach for Shoe, gotta ask, have you ever seen him out of uniform?
I have. Very rarely, but I have. I can't say enough things about John Shoemaker. The way that he conducts himself, the way he prepares himself for every single day, there's not a better mentor to be around. I know he made me better every single day, and the rest of the staff that was also with me this year. And on top of that, he inspired and touched every single player that was there. Just his mental preparedness, his physical preparedness, and also just all that knowledge he has from being within the Dodgers system for so long.
Yeah, you're still pretty young. Do you ever get the itch to go out there in an inner squad and throw?
Yeah, I do not. My arm, I had elbow surgery and my shoulder is no good anymore. So I'm 29, but going on about 52. So body's in shambles. So I'm very much okay with just being on the sidelines and living vicariously through all the guys now.
Boy, that Rancho environment, that's fantastic, isn't it?
Oh,
beyond Shoe, the whole environment.
It really is. The Cal League's special. I'd never been out west, really. So every time I played, I was always on the East Coast. I grew up on the East Coast. The Cal League is different. It's older. It has a lot of character. Rancho itself, they do such a good job with the promotions they put on, the fireworks they do every Saturday night for the home series. Rancho is a really special place. I wish we could have made a playoffs for them this year. It came up just a little short, but it was really cool to be there, especially being in Midland the year before.
Mm-hmm. I hear bobblehead nights in Rancho, like the lines are like 2 or 3 miles long.
Yeah, and we were lucky enough to have Kershaw come pitch for us one game this past year, and wow, I haven't really seen a place like that in a long time. It was Sunday morning game, and you would have thought that it was a Saturday night game. And I mean, everything was sold out. People were filing in, just waiting for him to show up. I mean, that was also probably a top moment for me this past year, because Kershaw is my favorite pitcher growing up and arguably the best pitcher of this generation. So it was really cool to see him go about his business like right in front of me. And for everybody, both teams, no one stayed in the bullpen. They all came down and watched him. Really, really cool. It's almost like a once in a lifetime experience for all those guys.
He is one solid dude, too, isn't he? I mean, in those environments, I've seen him in Oklahoma City do that several times, and he's just like one of the guys.
Yeah, he showed up that morning and was ready to go. And, you know, he was just having conversations with all the guys. Pretty cool. Like in the locker room, just he knew everyone in there and he was asking how they were doing, what have they been working on. And it was like he'd been with us all year. And it's pretty cool to see that from a future Hall of Famer like that.
Okay, you had a lot of really talented pitchers to work with this year. There's too many of them to mention on this. So just kind of, as broad or as specific as you want to get, kind of talk about the pitchers that you got to work with this year in Rancho.
Yeah, like you said, there was way too many to get single out, and I don't want to leave anyone behind there. So, I mean, we had over 40 guys come through, and, a lot of them went up to the next level. And, the one thing I'll say is that Shoemaker has definitely instilled in guys is that they showed up ready to go every single day. And the culture that was created with us there this past year with early work, man, those guys got after it in their bullpens, got after it in the practice settings. We tried to push them as hard as they could. And then it was just nighttime rolled around, ready to go for the game. And the goal was always to make them feel like they were always prepared for whatever they were going to see, whether it was good or bad, because that's player development. And there's always going to be some ups and downs, especially with as young of a crew as we had. And the one thing that will really stick with me is how hard those guys worked each and every day. It's really cool for fans to come in, see the games, see them put on some great outings. Mm-hmm. But what no one sees and what you don't appreciate from the outside is that how hard these guys work. And they get there at noon every day, they eat lunch, and then they're ready to go. And they go through an entire workout. They throw their bullpens, they throw their touches, they do their daily throwing. They showed up ready to go every single day. They didn't take a day off. And that I can say has stayed consistent with every single guy that came there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I was talking to Bubba. He was a 2022 draftee just the other day, and I asked him, he was a East Coast type of guy too. He was in Philadelphia and then went to Maryland. So just like you, played on the East Coast. First time he had ever been to California, just like you. And I asked him, so I want to ask you the same question. Do you ever stand there in the middle of Rancho Cucamonga and just kind of look out at the environment and just kind of pinch yourself like, wow, is this really real?
All the time. And that's one of the things that I try to do as much as possible is just, try to live in the moment. But all those guys made it so much fun to be there every single day, especially when that new draft class did show up. Even throughout the entire year, it's like you just kind of look around and you see some of the things that they do, and it's incredible. And, you have everybody cheering behind you, ready to go. It's a special place in Rancho.
You mentioned it just a minute ago, but that 2022 draft class this last summer, well, it just seemed like, that was the dog days of summer, and sometimes you can kind of get in the doldrums, and one day seems like the next, but boy, they shot a bunch of energy into last season for Rancho. It was a lot of fun after that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. You kind of looked up one day and it was like, man, we have a brand new team. It was cool because a lot of the guys we had there for most of the year ended up getting an opportunity to go play in Great Lakes, which is always the goal for player development, is always continue to see the guys climb. And then for these guys to show up fresh out of college, ready to play, not really knowing what to expect in professional baseball. And they really did. They played hard. We started winning a lot of games. They just got their feet wet, and it's pretty cool to be able to do that. So I know losing the short season affiliate is tough on everyone, because that was usually where guys, especially out of college, got their feet wet. But now being able to show up in a full season affiliate where pretty much 100 games have already been played, that energy is special. And it's hard to recreate when you have had guys there for 100 plus games already. So it was definitely something that was really needed. And it was cool for me because most of that draft class that showed up for us was on the positional side. So, I got to really sit back and watch them take at bats and, have them ask questions about how, what do you see in here, with the pitching, and talking to Okoye and Nava and Shu, and, being able to just pick all of our brains. And it was different because those guys were having conversations that, might not have been happening the rest of the year, just because they were seeing the game a little bit differently coming from the college side.
If there's ever a coach's Dodgers game, I want to see Durin O'Linger pitch to Okoye Dixon. That would be fun. I don't know if it'd be fun for you, but it'd be fun for me to watch because that dude can stroke. He can really hit.
Yeah, he took some BP there too already towards the end of the year. He's ready to go.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Hey, two guys I did want to get specific on, if you don't mind. You got to work with both the #1 Dodgers prospect in the entire organization, Diego Cartaya this past year, and then Dalton Rushing when he came and hit like 900 for the time he was there with Rancho. Can you talk about those two guys?
Yeah, special talents. I think that's probably the best way you can put it. But not only that, but like great dudes on and off the field. They both push themselves on the game planning side. So for me, both of them being on the catching side, I got to deal with them a lot. And we really pushed the game planning side for Diego and Dalton both. And they both had different perspectives, very different backgrounds. But both of them, man, they came prepared for the opposing lineup. They knew our pitchers. They wanted to catch all the bullpens, making sure that they knew what arsenal they had, how would they rank their arsenal, how can it play in different counts. And then on top of that, we would have them do a lot of digging on the opposing lineup. And they started knowing those hitters better than I think the hitters knew themselves. So it was really cool to hear them like just lead the meetings. And I think that both of them are obviously incredibly talented and have a chance to play baseball for a very long time at an extremely high level, which is very exciting for Dodger fans in general. But like their leadership skills are really what set them apart. They got all the pitching staff behind them, and they got all the positional side behind them. So it's a pretty cool spot for them to be in, because that catching side is really the only side that mingles with both. And the way that they handled the extra work that they had to do on the pitching side and on the hitting side, and how they balance themselves speaks volumes to who they are as a person and who they are as a player.
I talk a lot about the Dodgers culture, how players, when they first come into the organization, they're told, one of the first things they're told is, hey, you have to be a good person first before you become a good professional baseball player. And you get to get your hands on that almost right away. You get to get these guys first. So can you talk to that?
Yeah, that's a really good point too. And especially when the newer draft class shows up, or even a lot of the younger guys, first time being maybe first full season, definitely first full season affiliate. And there's a lot of different things that guys have never experienced before being in the complex. So the first thing that we stress is, how do you sign a baseball? When a fan comes and gives it to you, like not going straight to the sweet spot unless they specifically talk to you about it. And like different nuances that really Shu covers really well. And he would have little team meetings here and there about things. And, how do you prepare yourself for an interview that they do for on the field skits, like in between innings? And, how do you conduct yourself? Because it is very different dealing with people that are getting interviewed daily now, photographers. How do you conduct yourself? How do you show up for a road trip? Like, what do you dress in? The most important thing, and that's why Shu there's no one better to have at that level, is because he's seen it all and he knows how to teach it extremely well. It's cool because I have a very different perspective than what Shu does. And, there were things that I learned myself from Shu this year. So yeah. I know that all the guys that would pop up, and they'd come in and she would bring them into the office and this is what we're doing and this is how it's done. And, you obviously want to see the success on the field, but you want these guys to remember this experience for the rest of their life too, and something that they carry with them. And that's what I think we try to pride ourselves in the most, is just communicating with them and just really have them turn into adults and grownups. And, and how do you conduct yourself with different things that they've never been in front of before?
Yeah, no doubt. And just hearing you talk, it just brings me back to what I hear a lot of players say. And it's just amazing how the Dodgers are able to take all these different ideas, let everybody have their own ideas on how things are supposed to go for them, but yet then all have same common goals and everything comes out the same. That amazes me how you guys are able to do that.
Yeah, and that's definitely a byproduct of what the culture that our leadership group has created between Reimer and McGrath, and Rob Hill on the pitching side, and of course, I can't forget the rest of the coordinators for us with Donnie, Minta, and Nesa. Mm-hmm. Like all those guys, there's always people coming in and out of each affiliate, and they have a lot that they want to share with everybody, especially coming from different levels, maybe. But it really is. It's a special place to work in and be a part of, because there's not a single day that passes by that I'm not on the phone with Rob or Donnie, about something that pops up random. And, and someone is always ready to help out. And there's so many different resources to leverage that I really think that that's why the product continues to be as good as it is.
Yep. And you mentioned Rob and Donnie, and another really cool thing about the minor league system, a lot of minor league systems, it literally, from one stop to the next, you get a whole new set of coaches. And one set of coaches is likely to do an entirely different thing than in some organizations. I've I've heard many, many, many stories. Certainly not that way with the Dodgers. DA, Dave Anderson, the pitching coach there at High A, Great Lakes, Ryan Dennick, the pitching coach at Tulsa. You guys have all coached on the same team together, and you communicate all the time. So the handoff from Rancho to Great Lakes, I was talking to Nick Nastrini about this very thing a couple of months ago. The handoff from Rancho to Great Lakes to Tulsa, it's like seamless.
Yeah, and it really goes into how much we communicate. As soon as the guys get called up, which is always the goal, there's a phone call that happens in the morning that they're moving up, whether it's between me and DA or me and Dennick, because I know we had a couple guys that went straight to Tulsa this past year just because of how things shook up. But also that goes back to the relationship that I have with both those guys. And, all three of us have been so close. I obviously worked alongside with Dennick in Michigan the year prior. And me and DA came in as dev coaches in the exact same year, same time. I went to his wedding this off season. I think of both of those guys as very close friends, in addition to colleagues. So, I'm really lucky to be able to work with them. But there's never days that go by where we're not texting each other, something that's going on, whether, because we know all the guys in the system. So, it's not just like I only take care of what Rancho is going on and then, DA takes care of Great Lakes. It's a team effort with everything that goes on with us. And, that I think that's why everything seems so seamless, just because of how much we actually talk. The morning that we get in there at like 10 a.m. to the field, and I'm on the phone with DA about something that's going on or someone that's coming up to him and, things that we've been working on. And, and the guys show up and DA already knows exactly what's been working on. And then it's like the guy has nothing. They just show up and they're ready to go, acclimate to the new place.
Yeah, I was talking to Julian Smith the other day, and he said something that really caught my attention. He said, obviously everybody's competing against each other because everybody wants to make the major leagues, but there's like zero jealousy and everybody's pulling for each other in a minor league environment. How do you pull that off?
It's not easy.
Yeah.
I think it's just because they know that, everybody is on the same level. Everybody is there for the same reason. And we all want everybody to help out our big league team in LA. And I think that when we draft guys, we value so much in character and personality that we don't bring guys that actively root against anybody else. They all want to see each other succeed. They want to move up to the next level with each other, and of course there's always going to be, I want to be the guy moving up, of course, but that's also what drives people too. And it's really cool to see them pull for each other, and you win games. And, I know that we have a lot of success on the minor league side with winning at the different levels and making the playoffs. And it's something that we stress to our guys because, our big league team wins every year. So that's something that when they go up there, winning is important, and development obviously comes first, and there's going to be some roadblocks with that, but we are a team no matter where we are in it. And once again, I'll keep referencing Shu, but that is something that Shu does so well, is that you have to be able to balance the development and understand that there is a team aspect to everything, no matter how much personally you're developing. So I really think that once you get that side of it, you root for everyone, and then, everybody takes care of their own thing and care for each other. And then before you know it, you're the guy that's going to go up to the next level too. So it's cool to see that. And it's been at every level I've been at that there's really no animosity whatsoever.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. You're going to have a great perspective on this, so I can't wait to hear your answer. You've been both a high-level college baseball player and a professional baseball player. Now you're a coach. You're a player in one of the most visible organizations, Boston. Now you're a coach in one of the most visible organizations, the Dodgers. So for all those kids that want to become professional baseball players someday, okay, you know what it takes to not only get there, but also to stay there. And then once you stay there, to keep ascending through the ranks. So what is your message for those kids?
Control what you can control. And I know that seems so cliche, and I'm not that guy, I promise, Casey. But it is super important to understand that, if you take care of the little things each and every day and you build yourself a routine that is good for you, surround yourself with good people that want to help you, you can achieve anything you really want to. There's always a resource out there to be leveraged, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to go and talk to somebody that, you're having a problem with something. Address it. Don't let anything fester. Don't try to think that you're a superhero and can do everything on your own, because I promise as soon as you feel like you're on your own island, you're not going anywhere else. So, leverage the resources because they're always there.
That is fantastic. And I can tell you for a fact, I have talked to players that have specifically said, hey, the Dodgers, when they explain something to you, they want you to ask not, hey, what are we doing? They also want you to ask, hey, why are we doing this? So you could truly understand it and personalize it for yourself.
Yeah, no question. Anybody tells you something, it's a suggestion, right?
Yeah.
And it's ultimately their career. So like we want to have this two-way conversation, this two-way road, because that's how development works. If you just have somebody telling you what you need to do and there's no reason behind it, it makes it a lot harder to buy into it. So as soon as you build that relationship and you leverage those resources, you ask the questions, well, why are we doing this drill? You start to understand yourself more. And once you understand yourself, the sky can be the limit, especially when you have people around you that really do want to help. And I think that that's something that is prevalent throughout the Dodger system forever. Like no matter where you are, everybody has the best interest for each and every player. And I think that that's the most important thing to like come out of it, is that like the communication aspect is key.
Yep, no doubt about it. When you're talking about spending 6 months for the season and then instructs and then spring training, you're spending way more time with the people in the dugout and your coaches and your players than you are your family a lot of times. So you have to have relationships. And if you've heard Durin O'Linger talk throughout this interview, I think it's pretty obvious that it's not very hard for him to develop great relationships both with his colleagues and his players, which is key to being in his position. And he is an up-and-coming rising star in the coaching system. So Durin O'Linger, when I reached out, I was so hoping that you would respond and come on to Dodgers Daily. So thank you so much. I've enjoyed this just immensely.
Yeah, I have too, Casey. I really appreciate you having me out.